welcome back to another exciting podcast episode, and actually our 25th episode here on American Pylon. Your host, Will Mehall, joined by my counterparts, James Thomas Fanning IV, Tyler Combs, and producer Dave behind the mic, making all this possible. Got a lot to talk about. Obviously, I wasn't here for our last episode, so I wasn't able to respond to a lot of the hate that was being thrown around.
There was a lot of it. We had a great time.
Around Notre Dame. But we're going to address some of that tonight. But we're also going to talk about the UGA performance, or lack thereof, against Texas. And then we're going to hash out the national championship. So before we do, I want to give a shout out to our partners at In We Go. For just $30 a month, you can get unlimited access to events in and around the city. Ballparks, games, brewery tours, concerts, all that kind of stuff. So if that's something you're interested in, be sure to check them out. You can find them in Phoenix, Denver, Washington, D.C., the Tampa area, and Atlanta for just $30 a month. And if you type in the promo code Pylon into the promo box, you'll get $10 off their first month. Yep. So check out.
For a limited time.
Yeah, so check them out.
Away soon, any day.
And we still need to get tickets. I think we said that we might go see Notre Dame play basketball on the 22nd, which would be fun.
They're January 22nd? Yeah.
Yep.
I'm still down to go to that.
Yeah, so that would be something fun to do.
There's some good events the weekend of the Super Bowl. Did you notice that?
Yeah,
like the Atlanta Beer Festival.
Tailgates and stuff.
Yeah, there's the Atlanta Beer Festival at
the Winter Brew
Atlantic Station.
Yeah, that looks cool.
And the next day there's the big game brunch because they're not allowed to say Super Bowl, which we're probably not either. But producer Dave can bleep that out.
Come after us, NFL. We got you.
Yeah.
We have the express written consent of the NFL.
Yeah, we should align our calendars because I didn't really do much, I don't think, I guess we went to a couple things in December, but definitely want to get my month's money worth out of January. And there's certainly a lot of stuff to take advantage of, so we should definitely check them out. But let's move on and talk a little bit about UGA football. There's no other way really to put this, a disappointing end to what otherwise was a great season for the Dogs. But, unfortunately, to face the reality and talk about what the Dogs didn't do on the field in this game.
Get off the bus.
It just looked like they came out flat. They weren't prepared. They weren't ready. And there's a lot of narratives that can be pushed. They didn't really care. They didn't want to be there. They were too busy chirping on social media. I think all of those are pretty valid points. But before we get into X's and O's and what we saw in the game, I want to hear from you guys what you thought was the biggest problem heading into this game. Was it a mental side or was it a lack of preparation?
I think it was a lack of leadership from our side. I think it's not that we didn't want to play Texas. I think there's obviously an element, as what Will is saying, as far as you don't make it to the playoffs, similar to Auburn last year and their loss to UCF. If you don't make it to the big dance, and you're so close to playing for it. You're in a very emotional game versus Alabama as your repeat, as your chance at revenge, and you don't get there. Anything less feels it just doesn't feel like it's gonna fulfill. Obviously, you're not playing for the biggest trophy. You're not playing for what your preseason goals were, which are very much within our grasp. Now we put ourselves in that situation, so that's we can only point at us for being. For ending up in the Sugar Bowl, which again is not a bad bowl. So New Year's 6 is always a chance to see your brand out there one more time. It's great for practices for younger recruits and people who are on the edge of busting into the 2 deep rotation in any position. All that being said, I feel like our lack of leadership to kind of rein in that focus. Look, guys, we didn't get what we wanted, but we have one more chance to go out there and play. We don't get to really check the boxes we wanted to at the preseason, but we have one more chance to go out there and represent our brand, represent our own, the brand of Georgia, and the brand of our personal brand as far as going to the NFL or any kind of dreams or hopes or afterwards of anything in football related for those guys. And I just felt like we didn't have the focus to overcome what happened in the game. I felt like we were up. I think we were excited to play Texas. You saw a lot of our players chirping on social media after Notre Dame getting dismantled by Clemson.
But this is the problem. This is kind of the problem that I have with this because it's like if you're going to make that statement and you're going to come out and say like we should have been there.
Totally agree.
Then you need to go out and finish business. And honestly, this was almost like a little gift, right? This is like a little way to put recruits on notice. Particularly, I think that's why, obviously we're booking games with Texas in the future because we want to be able to pull from that part of the country, and Texas is a hotbed for talent. So I got to say, if I were on staff, I would be more sorely disappointed not only in the performance, but say, guys, this was a chance for us to continue to build this program in the state of Texas, and we did ourselves a disservice not only in the game, but we really cost ourselves a spot in the minds of some of these recruits down the road.
It was a missed opportunity for sure. Is basically what it comes down to. That, like Tyler said, I think our guys were not as excited to be there as maybe they would have been had we not been so close for set. Which comes back to what Tyler kind of mentioned last week. Is like maybe the more you expand the playoffs, the more it devalues the other bowls, just because you have teams that are really into it down to the wire. So they have less time to kind of recover from being like, oh, we were so close, and get their heads back into what's not a playoff bowl. But it would have been nice if we could have had our guys kind of get their head back into the game a little bit, especially it seems like the older guys on defense.
Right. Well, and if you look back, a lot of guys tweeting and stuff, they were older. I mean, Mikol, I'm trying to think of some of the other. I know Mikol
Ledbetter tweeted one.
They were kind of the guys that should have been the leaders. That probably shouldn't have. And I get it. It's fun. It was fun at the time when we thought we were confident in riding high off a close game versus Bama with a month to prepare versus Texas. It was kind of fun to see our players have that chip on their shoulder and put the committee on notice, saying, "Hey, we should have been in. You're leaving one of the best 4 teams out." That being said, they did not hold up their end of the bargain. They did all the talking. They did not go out there and prove any points to say we should have been in there. But they did not go in there and make the committee think, second guess, did we put the 1 or 2 wrong teams in there? Maybe kept Georgia in there. And back to that leadership piece, I just think, again, I don't think we weren't up for Texas. I just think when the ball didn't roll our way and we went through some adversity, which you do in every single football game, we did not have the focus for that game to overcome that. You just thought we could never get ahead of ourselves. We never got out of the funk. We never changed the play calling, which might go back to coaching. But we never seemed, the team as a whole, the program as a whole, just never seemed to have the intention or intensity in that game to overcome any kind of punch in the mouth.
Yeah, and it was odd to me. The 2 things that were my big takeaways from the game was, one, we had a lot of young guys playing on defense, which to me, Kirby is not really one to say, let's let the seniors sit and I'm going to play for next year and play. Like, he's very tunnel vision, almost sometimes to a fault about, this is the only game that matters right now. And that kind of came back to bite us, that maybe we could have given Fields a few more reps. Maybe we could have opened up the offense when we were already ahead. You can argue that all day long, but Kirby is who he is, and he's not going to, to me, all that to say, the fact that we had a lot of freshmen playing a lot of snaps tells me that the seniors probably had a pretty bad week of practice. Yeah. He was using that to make a point, not to just be like, all right, y'all are done, I'm building for next year. It was more like, you guys didn't earn it in practice this month. So
there were some rumors about that too.
Yeah, and I mean,
he kind of refuted that. Kirby kind of refuted that wasn't true, that he set some seniors due to lack of intensity in practice.
I mean, he has to say that because you saw some guys out there on Ellinger's second rushing touchdown, it was Azeez Ojulari missed that tie, and he got penetration. He did everything except tackle him, and to his credit, I mean, that was crazy. That Ellinger, I don't know how he stayed up on that play. But even so, I mean, he's coming off a torn ACL. It's the first game he's played in all year, and he's in there, on 3rd down at the goal line in crunch time. Like, that's probably invaluable. Somebody maybe should have been in there if we were really trying to put our best foot forward. But if he earned the spot in practice, I'm okay with the culture that Kirby is building. But to me, that says maybe the seniors didn't quite show up.
Yeah, I think it's an element of that. I think that might be the reason why you saw more live snaps for younger underclassmen, for freshmen like Azeez and Devon Wilson. But I do think the bowl game on the whole bowl games in general serve a purpose for that. I think most coaches go in there saying, okay, this is my chance to, not that the games don't matter, but you definitely, there's that level of, this is the end of the season. I don't have to win this game to make it to the next, check the next box.
I understand that logic, but I don't feel like that fits in Kirby. He's so stubborn, and he's so about his process and his thing. I don't see him being one to be like, all right, we're going to give more snaps to the freshmen just to give more snaps to the freshmen.
I don't know. I feel like big picture that certainly could be, because I mean,
by that logic, he would have played Justin Fields more in the garbage time. Let him do more than hand off the ball during the regular season.
During the regular season, I think, again, that means so much more. That can come back to bite you a lot. I mean, granted, in garbage time, probably not. And then you make a good point there. I think that Justin Fields' whole scenario is a different animal in itself, honestly. I think that was a lot of pandering. You're not hearing Azeez Ojulari or Devon Wilson or those guys, or Adam Anderson saying, or Channing Tindall or Quay Walker saying, I only played 8% of snaps all season, I'm leaving for greener pastures, for
Yeah.
for more playing time. So I think that Fields thing is hard to compare. I agree. That's a debate to be had. I guess think that was a little more pandering and a little more babysitting for Fields and keeping someone happy. Obviously, we see why. That was probably evident in the locker room, maybe in some attitudes as to how that unfolded with Fields. Obviously, it didn't work. It wasn't enough. It wasn't handled properly. That's another argument. But I guess think as far as freshmen playing during the regular season, during bowl games, I think Fields, in my opinion, stands apart from the other guys that got a lot of snaps on January 1st, unfortunately.
All right, that's fair.
Just my opinion.
And my other takeaway was I was surprised and kind of disappointed to see how poor of a game that together like Fromm and Swift seemed to play. Because those are guys that they're not worried about going pro. They know they have to come back. It's the beginning of next year, if you want to look at it that way, where it's their team, their upperclassmen, they need to lead. And everybody has bad games. It just stinks that they both happen at the same time. But Swift goes out there and fumbles twice, and then Fromm was just missing. So I mean, his stat line's not that bad at the end of the day. It was like 200. He threw 60% for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns.
It was too little, too late, almost.
But his
when he was
QBR
racking
was
those up.
his QBR was 46.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's not that good. So I don't know. It was a bummer to see. Maybe their minds were elsewhere. Maybe they the seniors were taking plays off and they let that trickle down to them.
Sure.
Or maybe they're not the vocal leaders that we hope they will be next year. Yet, even though you think it's like, the quarterback and the running back, they have to be the leaders of the offense. Maybe there were other guys who they had kind of ceded that to. So hopefully they'll kind of take the reins next year. But that was something that to me was kind of a bummer and something that I noticed. Also, Texas has a receiver named Lil Jordan.
Yeah, so they call him LJ.
Jordan.
They call him LJ for short.
I forgot about that. I'm looking at the box score.
Change my name to that.
That's neither here nor there. I just think that's funny.
They said that in the game. His mom loved Michael Jordan, so she wanted to call him Lil Jordan. That's his name, yeah. I agree, though, to close out on kind of Jimmy's second point there, is Fromm went back to pre-LSU Fromm. Slow start, not reading progressions, missing guys downfield, just frustrating stuff. And then they were getting after us. I mean, we're saying all this about us. Give Texas credit. They showed up to play. They came out. They stymied our run the entire night. We didn't ever get to successful runs. We had those 2 turnovers that Jimmy referenced with Swift. The first one was tough. He left his feet. That's to their credit. I think the second one is hard to blame on Swift because that was helmet on ball, and that's just kind of the way. I mean,
it happens.
That's the way it happened. But again, I think that goes back to the focus and the intensity or the intention you have towards that game. Stuff like that happens, and that wasn't necessarily his fault, but can you bounce back? And we never did. You just never saw it. So I agree. It felt like there's these 2 guys that are going to be, you could point to as definite leaders and who are definite workhorses and guys who have been instrumental to our success this year and will be here next year with no pressure of leaving or no pressure to almost put on for their personal brand to say, look at my draft stock, and pretty poor performance. So yeah, I mean, there's something to that. You don't regress that quickly, especially with a month of preparation. There's something to that, no doubt. So
I thought that punt Georgia tried to do is a pretty unfortunate momentum swing
where the punter caught it with his knee on the ground.
Come on. Well, I got to put more of that on the center.
Oh, absolutely.
Deep snapper. Yeah.
I mean, everybody was, giving him hell on the sideline, but it's like, dude, that was a terrible snap.
Yeah, it was a bad snap.
Not something part of your
job, right? I guess so, but part of your job as a punter, it's got to be in the forefront of your mind. No matter
the
what.
The forefront of his mind was getting that kickoff.
Right.
And then so he's like,
but
I got to catch it.
At the same time, it's kind of like if you don't go, I think of a fielder in baseball, right? If you don't get down to get the ball and you try and stand up to make a quick throw, you're risking that ball trickling through your legs. So my bigger thing is, okay, so let's say he tries to just, bend down, pick up the ball, and doesn't field it cleanly, right? Now you've got a snap that he's put on the ground, and it's going to be a turnover with better field position or potentially than what could have happened.
It was close. I mean, it was one of those in the moment things. He could have maybe crouched or not. I didn't blame it on him. It was
he had that shanked punt.
Well,
the very next one.
You just saw that this was becoming a head case.
That's the thing. That was the whole team. It was almost a head case. Everyone was making these bonehead penalties, similar to was it LSU? I guess it had to be. When we just kind of these things were just happening to us, and we couldn't overcome blown coverages or fumbled balls or a punt that was downed due to a bad snap, and it was just we could not overcome that. But to that point, I do think Camarda probably had a 2% responsibility in that, because if the snap is good, if it's a good snap, you're not worried about it, right?
Yeah.
Now, granted, that still comes to being a football guy, understanding my knees can't be on the ground. That's football 101. Everyone that plays knows that. I think to David's point, and David was both a punter and a baseball player.
Yeah,
whereas
it's tough life.
As an outfielder, you practice that routine of getting down. So think about it. As a punter, that's not a routine, at least that we never practiced, of getting down for a bat, which is probably something you could spend a little bit of time just so it's somewhere in your
you practice really bad snaps, but that one was so close that it didn't register in your mind.
That, like no man's land. It wasn't.
It wasn't like fire like over your head or something.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying it
in high school.
Fire. I'm not saying that it's something he should have necessarily known how to do. I'm just saying, like, instinctually, I got to imagine, if the ball is snapped, I'm going down that way to get it. Try and
never
keep the ball in front of me.
Yeah. I guess might as well learn it in an exhibition game, but it would have been rather learn it in a game that we were already, pretty far ahead.
Yeah, but I still think even if we got that punt off, I think we saw all night. We flipped the field.
Texas. No doubt. They came out there and Sam Elmser had a hell of a game, and it looked like if he wanted the yardage, he was going to get it.
That's where I was going to go with the X's and O's.
It was unbelievable, and I want to get in more to that, so I'll turn that over to you guys. Just the way that it looked like they were handling their business on the field, it was impressive. As terrible as it was to watch.
They were fired up to be there.
Sure.
We're pretty riled up, and we're not. So is what it comes down to. It's a bummer. Tyler and I were going back and forth about whether this matters at all, but it just stinks to me to think that if we had showed up and taken care of business and play the way that we know we're capable of playing, and we feel like we're probably a more talented team than Texas top to bottom, that we could have probably finished the season number 4, number 5 in the AP, because I don't think they were going to drop Bama no matter how bad they got beat. And then they had Ohio State at number 3 for winning the Rose Bowl and finishing with 1 loss and winning their conference, so I get that. And instead we end up tied for 7th with Florida, which is a team that we beat by multiple scores in the regular season. So I don't know. I guess it doesn't technically matter at the end of it, but it's fun to, when you look at a coach's pedigree, to me it's it's fun to have X amount of top 5 finishes. That's like a step up from top 10 finishes, and I think we would have finished in the top 5. So that's something that maybe some of the guys with a lack of focus cost Kirby when it's all said and done.
It is frustrating.
Which he doesn't care about. He wants a championship. That's all he cares about.
Yeah, it is his job, though, ultimately. And if the product on the field reflects poorly on him, again, after a month of preparation.
He did. To be fair, he's in the middle of that whole month, he was trying to close out early National Signing Day, probably behind closed doors, trying to hold on to Fields. He lost his defensive coordinator, so he's doing the entire defensive game plan by himself.
Yeah, that was our first game without Mel Tucker, which is another good high-level point. I just hate it because, yes, those are all things that are going on, and it's distracting. And as a program, that where we're at and where we're trending towards, expect that. Bama goes through this every year. Yeah. Clemson, it kind of makes you jealous of their continuity that they have. But this is kind of the new norm probably. If the more successful we are, the more around these later bowl games and stuff, our coaches are going to be getting poached and getting looked at. And players who are talented that think they deserve to play that aren't playing because we're so deep are going to be looking elsewhere. And this obviously goes and coincides with the changes in the transfer rule and the 4-game red shirt and all of that. So it's just nature of the beast and cost of doing business as a big boy in the college landscape.
Hopefully, though, Fields and quarterback obviously is kind of a special thing because there can only really ever be one quarterback that plays, but I haven't heard that many rumblings about people that we actually want to stay moving on. I think Kirby's hopefully building a culture where it's like you stay and compete every single day, and if you earn your job, you get it. So Fields was...
That's a good point. Yeah.
It's been kind of a circus with him, and that's a whole podcast in itself. But, we have linebackers, we have safeties, we have wide receivers. Like, we have position groups where we're pretty deep, and we have guys that are very talented that aren't getting to play that much. And Jamari Sawyer, I haven't heard a peep out of him other than to tweet at one person and say, I'm not going anyway.
He got to play, though.
Yeah, and that's what I said. You can only one quarterback can play, whereas you can rotate those guys through. But, he's just this uber recruit that a lot of people expected to be a day one starter, and he's going to be fighting just to start next year. And so that, to me, is reassuring that hopefully Kirby is building the kind of culture where guys understand you can come in as a 5-star recruit, sit, wait your turn, start as an upperclassman and then go on and still be a high draft pick, which is what Bama's been doing for 10 years.
Right. No, that's true. That's a good point for our program. But a little bit back to the X's and O's, I guess. But Ellinger, it literally felt like Tim Tebow or Cam Newton. If the guy wanted 6 or 7 yards, damn it, he was getting 6 or 7. We could not stop him. And their passing game wasn't that strong.
He threw for 170 yards.
And they haven't have a receiver over 70 yards. In fact, their highest is 67. The very next is 40. Then it drops off dramatically to 20, then 8. So, it's not a sexy box score for them, but they just did it well. They controlled the clock. It wasn't a shootout, really. It's a quarter, which they really didn't even get that.
Yeah.
And it's
Ellinger had 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, 3 rushing touchdowns.
Rushing touchdowns.
Which that allowed him to break Vince Young's single season record for Texas. Yeah,
Tennessee Titans legend.
But I mean, yeah, Ellinger, it wasn't an amazing passing performance. They hit the big plays when they needed to. They had some of those chunk plays that kept them honest and kept us off balance. But we haven't been known for getting after the quarterback this year in 2018, but man, we could not, like you said, like Azeez Ojulari had him dead to rights, kind of went high, swung and missed, wrapped around and runs for 15, 20 yards. I mean,
that was just a freak play. Like,
he's talented. I didn't give him a near enough credit because I was looking at their backfield. I think coming into the game, Texas had a leading rusher. He had 600 and something yards and 3 touchdowns, and I was like, "There's no way we're about to smoke these guys." I mean, I thought if you can't move the ball in the Big 12 defense, you're certainly not going to move the ball on us.
Yeah.
I think we're, top 2 or 3 in the SEC in rush defense, which who knows what that means anymore after watching the national championship. But it's just, it was amazing to see what we have done well, run the ball, and even stop the run, just absolutely disappear. I mean, we could not move the ball, and we could not stop them on the ground. That's the most frustrating way to lose, in my opinion. If they're hitting big plays and just passing all over you,
right.
And we don't have DeAndre Baker out there. You don't have it may be okay. A young defense, you don't have your DC, and, you're not used to seeing a high-flying offense like Oklahoma last year. But we're getting ran all over from a quarterback nonetheless. I mean, you pretty much know what's coming every play. It seemed like if it was a 3rd and short, the Joker lined up, slapped his hands, and ran over us.
Yeah, I mean, Burrow did the same thing.
Yeah, he did. It was just we could not stop it, and that's what's crazy to me is Kirby seems to have. I hate it, but Kirby seems to have this thing where when we need to get up, or maybe this is a little different because it's a bowl game, but like. You have all this preparation, or you have LSU like it's a big game. It's almost like people have attacked what we have done well, even Auburn, and they do it at very great success. Like I don't know what happens. Like maybe we feed into ourselves a little too much, which maybe we did. Maybe that's why we're tweeting so much. We should be there. We should be there. We should be there. You're just happy to be able to tweet. You made a mistake, but you're not hungry enough to go out there and show up and follow through with Kirby's plan and Mel's plan or whatever. It's just. I don't know. It was just to watch a whole game to us never adjust and never be able to slow them down was and it was pretty predictable play calling. That's pretty embarrassing. I mean, who's to stop someone from doing that next year and say, you know what, we're just gonna. You think you're hot shit? You think you're here, Georgia? You think you can compete with them? You can't. You can't beat a 9-4 Big 12 team.
Yeah, that has been one thing that if you're gonna knock Kirby for something throughout his tenures, when somebody comes out and like we have our game plan and somebody comes out and just kind of punches us in the mouth, we haven't done.
Yeah.
A great job of response, but with the exception of Oklahoma, I guess.
Yeah, we had to overcome. That was great adjustments too.
Yeah,
and Kirby's known for that.
And in this game, we didn't have Jordan Davis. I think that was the thing earlier in the season. Our rush defense was not that good because we didn't have that big run stopper. And then Jordan Davis worked his way on the field, and then he ended up being hurt and not getting to play in this game. So ideally, he'll be 100% healthy going into next year. But it is kind of eerie that we're going to live and die by one guy. So
Jordan Davis having enough stamina to play 3 downs.
So I mean, I don't know if we'll take some guys that were playing kind of in the 3-tech earlier, like this past year, and just try and pile weight on them in the offseason. Just be like, we need somebody who's big enough to just clog a hole, or if we're just going to be like, Jordan, you're the guy.
We have some guys like, I think, is that Terrell Walthor. He's coming in after going, he was in our signing class last year, didn't qualify at JUCO. He's coming in just 1 year removed. Still not perfect fit, but kind of like Jordan Davis, hopefully can come on and help out. At least have a body in there. And Jordan Davis was a 3-star. He's a huge body. He has the frame, but he wasn't a sexy,
and at this
look
point,
at me.
Like, I feel like I trust the coaches, like scouting and identifying talent to the point where if we offer 3-star, it's like, okay, well, they know what they're doing because we've kind of got our pick of the litter so far of, a good bit of 5 stars, pretty much any 4-star that we've gone after. Like we haven't lost a ton of recruiting battles lately, except occasionally to Bama, which everybody's going to do. Mm-hmm. But so Jordan Davis would be my answer to your question. What's going to stop people from doing that next year? It's going to be hopefully one guy that hopefully stays healthy. But I mean, Alabama's defense in several years has kind of. They've been built around, like this year it was that Quinnen Williams guy. I mean, they would say like he would just wreck whole games and stuff. Mm-hmm. So I guess as football, people get hurt, and any team that's good, if their best player gets hurt, is going to be worse. So, you can make that argument with anybody. It's like, well, what are we going to do if he gets hurt? It's like, well, what's Clemson going to do if Trevor Lawrence gets hurt? And, it's football. That's why you guys get hurt, and you hope they don't. That's all there is to it.
That's true. What about switching gears a little bit? What do you think about defense as far as X's and O's are in the game? Did you see anything that you liked? Hard to pick, I know.
No.
But
So when we were on defense?
Yeah, for us defensively.
No, I mean, like we were just saying, there wasn't a whole lot of push up the middle, but I think a big part of that was from missing Jordan Davis. And then I didn't notice it as much watching live, but reading back, I did see a lot of comments that J.R. Reed was pretty fired up and like really lighting into the younger guys on the sideline and said, that they're saying he was one of the few upperclassmen that really seemed like he was excited to be there and was pretty fired up.
Good for him. We need more of that. That needs to be infectious.
Yeah,
that needs to
and
carry over.
he's coming back. So
Yeah.
as much as it stinks, there's this mass exodus of offensive players, and I guess we can talk about them one by one. Who made the right decision, who didn't. But J.R. Reed is one guy that I'm very glad coming back just from a leadership standpoint. And, he wasn't as good this year to me as he was in 2017. 2017, I swear he didn't miss a tackle the entire season. He was unbelievable.
That's the Roquan effect.
And he kind of regressed a little this year, but hopefully he'll come back and be because – if LeCount holds on to his starting spot, which I'm not really sure about at this point, that dude's flying around. He's hitting people, but he doesn't wrap anybody up.
No,
he misses tackles.
Yep.
So we need J.R. Reed back there as that sure tackler, as that safety valve.
Yeah.
Because unless they can coach the always going for this Sports Center hit out of LeCount and say sometimes you need to not give up a touchdown and it's okay to give up 10 yards or so. I don't know. J.R.
Kirby
Reed,
was after. I'm happy for J.R. Reed. We need that senior leadership back there for sure. But if you remember, Kirby was all over LeCount. Was it last year? I think he was like calling him out, saying, "We need more from you. We need to see more." Like I personally almost recruited you and got you here.
Yeah, last offseason.
Yeah.
I think he was pretty vocal.
And he responded.
LeCount's one of the guys we need to step up, or he's not in the playbook enough. He's
right. That's what it was.
Yeah,
I just
he's
think
not studying enough film.
I think a lot of that we noticed for the LSU game too, and again in this game. Not the best angles, and I think that was a Roquan effect. Roquan, I think, took so many good angles that if anyone were to be able to get around Roquan or able to even shake him a little bit, it made their angle so much better. Yeah. It made anyone behind Roquan, being J.R. Reed, Richard LeCount, our safeties, Malcolm Parrish, anybody, it made made their job so much easier to have someone that was covering the ground so fast and so smart flying into the ball. So I think that's what we saw a little bit of what he masked there on the backside of our secondary.
Yeah, that's a good point.
With what Roquan
he
did.
just made it. He literally made everyone on the field better. Just by himself, cleaning up mistakes when guys missed tackles. He would get there before.
Yeah, but you can also say starts up front with like John Adkins and those guys as well. That it's all kind of domino effects itself. I guess that's the word. Defensively for me, just to wrap that up, I guess because we're rambling. It feels like we are. I thought Devon Wilson looked great. I mean, he, I don't know if I remember, Devon Wilson, kind of that nickel star cornerback maybe. He 4-star, 5-star, anyway, highly recruited athlete, tore his ACL in spring after being an early enrollee.
It was like the third practice of spring practice.
Yeah, well, they were saying he
Kirby
looked
really,
so good.
Really
He might start and make it some playing time. And then tore his ACL. Unfortunately, couldn't. Jimmy and I were super surprised even by the open practice. He was running like full speed sprints down the field or around in the end zone after like a month or two of tearing an ACL. It was wild.
We talked about that on an earlier podcast for our loyal listeners out there. We were surprised he could run.
It shocked us that I thought an ACL you're like in a wheelchair for 2 years and then you figure it out. But like he was out there running. Anyway, he finally got to start. Finally got to play, and he started in the Sugar Bowl, and he looked great. I mean, he can tell he took it seriously. He was in the weight room. I mean, you can see what a college level weight training course, college level weight training program can do for you.
The cool thing about him and again Azeez Ojulari getting to play is that with the new redshirt rule, they're still freshmen next year. Didn't burn a year of eligibility, which is pretty.
Maybe
cool.
that's part of it. For Kirby, it's like I have nothing to lose aside from injury. I have nothing to lose here.
Yeah, that's true.
In a way, but he did lose. So
say
what you want about
a game and a Sugar Bowl trophy and 4 spots in the AP ranking.
Yeah. So
I don't know. Maybe next year.
And that's a Sugar Bowl and a wrap.
Yep.
Put that one behind us.
Yeah.
But we will be back in a year. A year from Monday, I think, is next year's national championship. It's going to be played in the Dome in New Orleans. So see you then, New Orleans. We're booking our flights in June, the day that Southwest lets us.
I'm not going to tell you what day it is. You have to figure it out yourself because I want to be able to get the cheap
We're not
flight.
going to give that away.
Yeah, well, certainly looking forward to next season, obviously putting this one behind us, or at least this last game. We're going to move on, talk a little bit about the national championship. Another one-sided affair, it seems.
That was
even worse.
Yeah. But before we do, we want to give a shout-out to our friend Ed Freeman and State Farm. If you're like us, then you might be accident-prone, and you're also like us, you seek out the best coverage. And that's why we rely on Ed Freeman State Farm for all of our insurance needs. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Ed Freeman is definitely the best agent in the state, if not amongst the SEC loyal. We'll say that. I don't know. I'm running out of massive comparisons here. But yeah, if you've got a car, a house, a life, or a boat, be sure to check out Ed Freeman State Farm for all your insurance coverage needs. So,
Hey, Ed.
All right.
Yeah.
Shout out, Ed. We forgot to give you a shout out last week, so we
Yeah, we
apologize. We'll give you that portion of our
Jimmy
check
was
back.
hosting.
yeah, that's what happens when
That's my bad. Yeah.
you're missing.
Ed pays us so much money as a sponsor. I guess we'll have to give some of it back to him.
Yeah, that's airtime he's paid for, guys. So you gotta
All
keep that in mind.
This,
yeah,
this isn't free.
It really is.
let's go ahead and let's jump in and talk about the national championship. Clemson, I mean, there's no other way to really frame this. I mean, Clemson absolutely just destroyed Alabama.
Yeah.
It's not something that you hear said very often, if ever.
Yeah.
that I can remember.
Yeah.
So,
Actually,
that was-
first ever, probably.
Here's a fun fact. Do you guys know who the last time Alabama lost a game that badly? Do you know who the coach of the other team that beat them that badly was?
Yes.
Did
Nick
I tell you
Saban
this?
at LSU.
Nick Saban as
Wow.
LSU's coach was the last time Bama lost a game that bad.
damn.
Sorry, that was
Could have
lame.
left a longer
I'm sorry.
pause for
Sorry.
dramatic
That was
effect,
lame.
but it's
Pregnant
fine.
pause next time.
Producer-
I'm learning.
Yes,
I'm
I
still,
know it. I know it.
I'm still new to this.
Producer Dave can
Do you know this?
can
Yes,
put
I
in
do.
a pause there for
kill
dramatic
the
effect.
mic, yeah, for a pregnant pause.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I got to be honest. I thought it was going to be a high-scoring game and it was going to be a shootout, but
Oh, yeah. I think we all did. The first quarter, it's like a ping pong ball. It was
yeah,
just back
I
and
mean,
forth,
that
back and
interception set it up, and I was like, oh, man.
That was wild.
But then that huge pass by Tua, I was like, okay, like, we
Yeah.
got a game.
So,
Like,
Well, and
this
Clemson
is-
took a little while to get heated up. Like when they had
Yeah,
that
they
pick
did.
six, and then Alabama was kind of marching down the field, and I was kind of like, oh, like Clemson's defense going to have to come up big, maybe even have another defensive score for them to do this thing. But then they were just lights out in the red
They
zone.
said, say no more, Jimmy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was wild to watch. And I will say, if they played that game 10 times, I mean, Clemson looked like the better team. I would say Clemson would win the majority of the times. I don't think they would win that big that many times because they were. I don't know. They were
I mean, let's face.
being
I think,
so aggressive on defense, and a lot of their pressure was getting home before Tua could do anything.
Oh,
with
man,
it. So
we're bringing
there were
four, too.
There were guys open on the
Incredible.
field at different times that Tua just didn't see because the pass rush got to him so fast because he didn't have his way to work his way across his progressions.
Yeah.
So maybe in a different world where the running backs were doing a better job chipping or the offensive line had a better game.
I don't.
Entirely different. And Bama scored more points. They
Yeah.
would have won.
Just
I don't-
stay with me here.
I don't
If Bama had scored more points than Clemson, they would have had a real shot to win that.
You bring up a good point there, Jimmy. Football's a game of inches.
It is.
Yeah, I don't know that I could look at that game and that blowout and say that if they played 10 times, I think Bama maybe comes away with one.
I
or
agree.
two.
It
I
felt
don't
like
know about
that.
maybe.
That seems.
I think Clemson's defensive front did what no one has been able to do ever against the Nick Saban team consistently through a game.
Which is get pressure with four
bring in
people.
four guys. I mean,
Yeah.
dropping people and make it, even though the guys are open, the window is so small, so short. That is a football 101. You get in the quarterback's face, I don't care how poor your secondary may be. If you pressure the quarterback, it is going to make his life
Yeah.
hell. It's going to
With
make your
four
secondary
guys,
look
too.
that much better. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're not committing that many more guys to the run or to get to the quarterback. And something we haven't been able to do in the past 2 years. We haven't been a sack-heavy team as far as Georgia goes. Not really about us. We weren't there. But that was an
should have been.
absolute – we would never have been able to do that. I mean, I don't want
No,
any part
not
of
at all.
Clemson.
No.
I mean, that is a piece of humble
Clemson
pie
is
there.
scary,
We
yeah.
thought we were trending in the right place. We
like-
thought we looked good being close to Bama. We would have never.
You know what?
ever
But that's fine.
performed.
If Clemson's going to be the new dynasty, whatever, at least they're not in our conference.
Yeah,
you know,
that's
at
true.
least when we play them, if we earn our right to play them, it'll be in the national
We get a
championship,
shot,
not
yeah.
the damn
It was like
conference championship every year.
Thanos just showing up and snapping his fingers,
Dude,
and
it was
like,
nuts.
yeah,
I mean, and it
Bama
was,
should have aimed for the head.
yeah.
what was wild though was
Very meta.
even Saban's
Nerding out
demeanor. Saban's demeanor almost wasn't. You never really saw him got fiery or throwing his headset or yelling. It was almost like he was getting punched in the mouth. His team was, and then he was just kind of crossed arms, like
I mean, he's been
trying
doing
to
it for
stay
so
calm.
long. I wonder if in the middle of the second quarter he's like, "We're not going to win."
There's
this
no
game.
way, and maybe
Yeah.
maybe he can see it that far in advance and kind of understand what he's got and what he's playing against. But it just seemed like he had almost a different approach of I'm not going to overreact. I'm not going to, good way or bad way. I'm not going to, he never really responds positively when they score. You don't see him jumping up and down and high-fiving or dabbing when they score. But he also wasn't really responding to their hiccups and their mess ups, which I thought was kind of a unique approach for Saban, because usually take him and Kirby, or you'll see him grab someone's face mask and get after it.
Kirby's always been a little more animated than Saban.
He is, and maybe that's an age thing. Maybe Saban's
a little more stoic, but
yeah, I don't know. It was weird.
Dabo over there doing like probably the Fortnite dance.
Who seems like such a fun coach to play for, honestly. I know Dabo. Some people disagree, but my God, I mean, and so, yes, I have made fun of Dabo and Clemson in the past for there are some games they win, and they act like they won the Super Bowl. So it's like, okay, let's not draw to the well too many times on our big celebrations. It's not like we've been there before. But, I mean, I can't talk. I mean, look at the guy. 2 in 4 years?
2 in 3 years.
2 in 3 years, and an absolute exclamation point.
It's
versus
crazy
the best team in history.
This year, in the last 4 years, Bama's seniors and Clemson seniors will have finished with literally the exact same 55 wins, 2 national championships, 2 and 2 against each other. Mm-hmm. Like they're an exact mirror image of each other for what a dynasty we think of Alabama as being, and they are because they've done it for a lot longer.
They have, yeah. Oh yeah.
In a bubble in the last 4 years, if you were a freshman in 2015 or whatever this year made you senior for, Bama and Clemson have been exactly the same. Bama has one more national championship appearance because they happened to meet one of the years in the semifinal instead of the final.
Right.
But that would be the thing that has.
That's a good point. I mean, obviously, I don't think anyone will ever overthrow the Saban dynasty, Alabama. That's impressive in itself. I think Dabo certainly has the roadmap to do it, and just because of the conference he plays in, he can win. He's gonna be able to match toe for step by step conference championship. It's a lot easier for Dabo to get there.
I agree with that.
So yeah, but I mean, we're definitely
2 more years of Trevor Lawrence, which is terrifying
which
for
is
the
crazy.
rest of college football.
So we're definitely seeing another little dynasty over there, which is crazy because I was even coming in saying no one's talking about Clemson, and not in a good way. I wasn't giving Clemson kudos.
It's like I was saying under the radar.
Yeah, it's like everyone was talking about Alabama and Tua. You heard a little bit about Georgia. You heard more about Ohio State. You heard more about Oklahoma and Kyler Murray, rightfully so, exciting players. But no one was talking about. All you heard about was how Trevor Lawrence, true freshman, highly recruited, number 1 recruit coming out of high school, dethroned Kelly Bryant. Kelly Bryant transferred, and that was it. Maybe because it's the ACC, I don't know. And we always thought, they're scoring a lot of points. Yes, ACC, so what? Well, they did what we couldn't do, and they didn't talk smack, and they talked with their play, and it was super impressive. And I guess I'm eating crow a little bit because again, I was saying, here come the playoffs, and no one's even talking about Clemson or talking about how Notre Dame shouldn't be there, or should it be Oklahoma or Ohio State or Georgia, or Bama's going to own the whole thing and take it. And no one was even talking about Clemson. And then
there was an online sports book that paid out people who bet on Alabama before the playoffs. I don't know if they were trying
to lose.
No, they were like, if you bet on Alabama to win the national championship in August, they were paying people out as if they'd won the national championship in December. I don't know if they were just trying to clear their books by the first of the year for tax purposes. I don't know why, but it was some online betting book. Like, there's people out there who bet on Bama to win the national championship, and they got paid as if they won the bet. But they got paid because I think they were saying Bama looks just so dominant. Or I don't know if they didn't want to take that hit all at once, and they were so sure Bama was going to win, so they were trying to make it a slow bleed.
Yeah, I'm sure if you're like a premium member
at this point
of this book, you probably got to keep your money or something.
Interesting.
That's interesting.
Just goofy little fun fact.
But that game was fun to watch. I mean, obviously it was over, but I think America were all Clemson fans that night for the most part, except for in Alabama and some of you sidewalk alum that cheer for Alabama. But yeah, I mean, it was just it was fun to watch. And I was texting my dad, and I was like, I'm staying up and watching this just because how often do you get to see this happen to Bama? So it was fun. It seems, Bama fans would
Did you stay up the whole time?
No, I stayed to about halfway through the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I went to bed
there were no more
the
points
third quarter.
scored after I went to bed, so I saw everything I needed to see essentially.
The game is too late. I wish they would play it on a Saturday night.
It was late, but I guess I told Dad, we certainly can't do this, so I want to watch a team that can, and no one ever has, and it was that was fun to watch, and I love college football, and that kind of stuff happens in other sports where like a certain player, a certain tennis player, a certain NBA player is hitting a certain streak. I just don't care, but because I love college football so much, that was one of the ones where I was like, I'll stay up late and watch this. This is just it's not even a close game. It's not even competitive, and I just wanted to just relish in the moment that wasn't even mine to watch a team beat Bama.
It'll be interesting to see if we look back and say, that was the beginning of the end for the Saban dynasty, or if this is just a bump in the road and he's going to be there for another 5 years and win 3 more championships. Or I don't know.
I mean, I'll never count Saban out. I could see them right back in the top 4 again. I think that's not that's not a hot take.
I think they'll be number 2 next year.
I guess we were joking, actually, some of us on our group text. We were saying, if Saban loses by 50, will he retire? I don't think that's the case. Obviously, he's still going. He would have announced it by now. I think Saban definitely will, getting into that conversation, he'll coach at least through Tua.
Which is only one more year.
Yeah, and I think because
You think Saban's going to be out after
I don't
that?
think he'll be out. I just think if you're looking for that kind of conversation, he's not going to leave when he has that kind of talent and continuity as his quarterback. Now, if he had to replace, if he would come in with a true freshman quarterback and starting all over,
Yeah.
I could see it. But Jalen Hurts is in the transfer portal, which is a hot thing to say now, transfer portal. That's new to me this
I had
year.
never
It's a
heard
very
that until
2018,
Justin
2019.
Fields entered it. Now it's like this meme
yeah.
where people are getting like sucked
He
into
is
the portal.
in the portal. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Jalen Hurts may not be there next year, but if he does stay, I just think for a coach of Saban's stature and I just don't see him walking away when he has two guys like that at quarterback in the backfield that understand his system and just are mature and are very talented. I can't see him walking away saying, I'm going to leave that on the table and I'm going to walk out with a loss.
Yeah.
So I think he'll go until at least both of those guys are no longer on the team. I'm not saying that's what he's thinking. I'm sure he would rip someone apart if they even asked that in a press conference or off the record. But
I hope he stays just because selfishly I want Georgia to be the
beat
team
him?
that
Yeah,
makes
I
him
agree.
retire. I want to beat him, and I want to beat him to where like we're the last game he ever coaches in. Us plus the bowl game.
you bring up a good point. I wonder if it'll never be good enough because it's going to be like, well, what if we beat him by 1 point? I don't care. I'll take it. I think that's your answer too. But it'll never be like, well, you didn't do it like Clemson did it. Well, you
Nobody
didn't
will
do
ever
it like that.
Clemson did.
Yeah, and no one probably ever will. So that's not a fair comparison or a fair standard to hold yourself to. But damn, that was fun.
Yeah.
What a
That's cool
thing
to
to
watch.
aspire to be.
Trevor Lawrence, man, that kid might collect
my
himself
God.
a Heisman.
He
and
is the-
ride
he
off
is
into
the
the
one.
sunset as the number one overall.
He
pick.
is the real deal, man.
Yeah.
He has an arm. That Joker, he just flies off the wall. And
He
how about
looks
that?
so
huge.
comfortable in
He
the
was
pocket.
standing in
so
there
comfortable
taking
in the
hits.
pocket.
Yeah,
I mean, there was
yeah.
one play where he threw a pass, and Bama had a defensive end who I don't know, but I assume he was a 4 or 5 star coming out of high school. He probably weighs
Had to be.
260 pounds, and he put all of his weight into Trevor, and he took one step
I saw
back.
that.
Never took his eyes off downfield. I mean, he was just like,
Yeah, he's a tall kid. That's a good point. But how about
6'5",
that? Who's that
225.
wide receiver? Clemson had Ross, number 8.
Ross.
What's his
That
first
kid's
name? He's from Alabama. I know.
Justin Ross?
Justin Ross. Well, Mr. Ross, you, sir, had
Yeah, he's a listener.
Mr. Do-It-All game.
Dude, he
Ross,
played
thanks
out
for
of
the
his
listen.
mind. He's a true freshman. He's from Alabama.
True
too.
freshman, yeah. So, look how talented. They got true freshman to true freshman. But that kid made the bobbling grab on.
He had that
of course.
spinning
He had a
one-handed
spinning
catch.
one-handed
That
grab
was
behind
crazy.
him. He scored a touchdown. He was just doing everything right. I mean, there was nothing that kid couldn't do. And he's what, 18, 19,
Yeah,
the
he's a
oldest true freshman.
Apparently, one of the receivers on Bama, his scholarship was contingent on Ross not coming to Bama.
Yeah.
So, Ross announced on signing day he was going to Clemson, so Bama called whoever it was and was like, hey, you can come to Bama
They
now.
did say that they mentioned that during the game, saying that Ross ended up choosing Clemson over Bama just because he was worried his position coach wouldn't be there any longer. I'm not
That's a
sure
valid
if he is or he
fear
isn't.
at Bama.
Yeah, which it is, and that's funny because Kirby, I've heard Kirby, and we've talked this before. Kirby actually, in his recruiting style, says, "Do not come to Georgia for your position coach. I'm going to coach in the way that guy might be gone. You need to love the program in Georgia for what it is, and you think we can do well for you. But your position coach could be gone in 2 or 3 years because we're going to have such success that I plan to breed that, and they're going to go on, and they're going to move on, and they're going to be their own head coaches
That's
and
cool.
OCs.
And that's cool for Kirby. That's a good, in any industry of any boss to want to train the employees, which is essentially what they are. To care the people under him to that they're ready to be in a position to succeed and move up when that opportunity comes along.
Yeah, I mean, look what he
not
did
want
for
to hold
Chaney.
people back just because.
He dressed Chaney up like a pretty pig and sent him off to, Tennessee
Knoxville.
for $1.5 million.
How about speaking
So
of
stupid.
speaking of Knoxville and stuff? There were lots of Butch Jones sightings on the
Oh
sideline
my
of the
God.
national
I was
championship. I have a
cracking up
theory.
about
He's secret agent Jones.
But
Sent in there to
Alabama
take down
intern.
Alabama from within. I don't even know if he knows that he's part of that plot, but I think that Tennessee sent him there, and they were like, "Hey, man, just do your best."
my God.
And his incompetence
you'll inevitably
is just like
Butch Jones,
slowly
like a
spreading.
virus.
Yeah, seriously, he's like patient zero.
I hate
and
seeing
he
him.
doesn't even know it.
I hate seeing him. I saw
It's the best plan ever.
I saw a
This guy's going to
poster.
do everything he can.
I
He
saw
will
a poster
destroy
on
them.
on this board that Jimmy and I subscribed to, and it was like, and the title was, "Does anyone else look at Butch Jones and just get pissed off when they see him like back there with his arms crossed, his red head like it's gonna pop off?" Like Alabama intern Butch Jones, he's just sitting back there, and it was also even sweeter because they were getting crapped on, and during that game, he just back there with like, I don't know, being a champion of life, but like, yeah, Butch Jones,
Back there with this
he is
I
a
can't stand
clown.
Butch Jones.
He's doing the right thing money wise because if he takes a job, Tennessee can't pay
I
him
think
all
he's
their
making
stupid
like 30,
money.
he's making like 30 grand as like an intern at Bama,
Yeah.
and Tennessee has to pay him the difference between his old salary.
Like a month. Yeah, so I mean, he's doing it right as far as money wise, but it's just,
30 grand.
it aggravates the hell out of me to see a guy who is like literally failing
failure.
upward
A
and standing there
failure.
going to collect a ring to be an
I
intern
will say-
at the age of like 45, 50. I don't know. It's a joke.
And Tennessee fans feel the same way you do, and even more so because it's actually their school that he's
Oh, hell yeah.
stealing from.
Oh, how pissed would you be if I were Rick?
Yeah, you talk to Tennessee fans. I have several Tennessee fan friends that I talk to, and they're all like, "Man, that guy's such a clown. I can't believe we."
I can't take him
I
seriously.
had no idea he was there. Like, I guess I missed that day on Sports
Yeah,
Center
he's
or
an
whatever.
intern.
But I was like, I double taked. I was like, wait a minute. That was it. But
You did notice it during the live broadcast, though?
yeah, like the first time he popped up, and Braun's girlfriend, she's an Alabama fan, and and she goes, yeah, he's an offensive analyst or whatever, and I was like, she can't be right. That's not right.
I didn't know how he's allowed to be on the field, though. I thought
don't get it
analysts
either.
had to be.
know.
Maybe he gets special head coaching privileges.
Who the hell knows?
Like being a Heisman winner or Masters.
I mean, there
Just
are
do
kids,
whatever you want all the time.
There are kids that are probably graduate assistants that are 21, 22 with the same job he has. I mean, he's getting paid through from another school to do it, but it's just it's aggravating at the same time. And I wonder if Butch Jones is like a biker when it comes to like pedestrians, bikers, and drivers.
Yeah.
Like for instance, this is a quick. I'll wrap it up. Drivers hate pedestrians. Pedestrians hate drivers. Everyone hates a bicyclist, right?
Yeah,
It's aggravating.
all the time.
So Tennessee
You're
hates
always
Butch
mad
Jones.
at people on bikes.
Tennessee hates Butch Jones. Alabama hates Butch Jones. Like everyone just hates Butch Jones. He doesn't know it. He hates Butch
Butch is
Jones. I don't know.
just laughing all the way to the bank.
I guess so. It's like no one seems to be happy that he's anywhere. Like he just
If he retired,
he's an oxygen thief.
Screw that guy.
But ouch.
Sorry, Butch.
So doubling back to Ross and getting away from that, just talking about receivers that do it all. And we got lots of time in the offseason to talk about recruiting. But did you see Dominic Blaylock's stat line in the All-American game?
All I know is he caught 2 touchdowns and
he
threw
a touchdown.
Right?
Yeah. So he was, for those people that listen that follow recruiting, we basically had 2 superstar receivers committed to us. One was Dominic Blaylock, who's a very quiet guy from Marietta, committed as a junior, never took another visit, never tweeted, never did anything. The other one was Jaden Hazelwood, who's the higher rated guy, number 1 wide receiver in the country, was kind of a prima donna, was always everywhere. Then he decommitted. Then he's talking crap about Georgia on social media. So he ends up signing with Oklahoma. He's dead to us. We don't care. But Blaylock, I'm excited about him. He seems like a guy that's about to buy into this system. And when he went to the All-Star game against all the other All-Americans of high school guys that are about to be freshmen at different programs, he kind of showed out. So.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's kind of a tangent, but
Rusty or a guy.
One of our sources
that I pay for.
Well, totally not
one of our sources
online message board that we steal information from.
Nobody's listening anyways.
One of our guys in the locker room.
One of our sources.
Locked in Tid tells us.
One of our sources told me. I mean, I have it on good authority, but he did say, he brought up a good point. He said that UGA fans have truly not appreciated Dominic Blaylock's recruiting. How talented he is, what he brings, and how he just committed, shut it down, and was just, you're bringing this elite talent to your wide receiving pool that's already pretty good and talented, along with, at the time, another 5-star wide receiver in Jaden Hazelwood, and just didn't bat an eye, didn't care about the competition, didn't care who he was coming in with, and just shut it down, been committed for a long time. And we get more mad at the guy we didn't get, but we don't really, which is recruiting, we didn't really praise or really appreciate, I don't think, what Jimmy's saying is how good Blaylock is, how electric he was in the in the Under Armour game. It's just, we have a pretty special talent, I guess, and kid to come in and just kind of shut it down and not really make a mess of recruiting, which a lot of kids seem to do. So that's I think that speaks a lot to his character, and that's fun to have in the locker room. That could be someone who ends up being one of those leaders that you need down the road,
Yeah,
So,
just it would be interesting to
something to
sit
look
here
for.
in 3 years and, he's an All-American, or he's, he just outperforms all of our expectations and be like, man, he really flew under the radar, like you said. So I don't know. It's
And you
something to
don't
look
wanna
forward
do
to.
that.
It's funny that when you go, online, you read what people are saying and stuff. We'll have signing day come and go. And like this past signing day, in terms of people that were announcing that day, was good, not great. I mean, we didn't get everybody we wanted. We didn't have a ton of targets that
There
were
were no
signing that day.
surprises,
Like
really.
Tyreek Stevenson picked us later, is fine. But you get people being like, oh, man, this was such a disappointing signing day. Like, maybe Kirby's not the recruiter that we... And it's like, dude, we just had like 14 early enrollees, and like 4 of them were 5-stars.
Yeah,
like,
we had the number
would you
2
rather
class.
not have the hay in the barn as early as possible so that... you want signing day to be boring.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't want your hat next to Florida and next to Alabama and some kid that your program is going to live or die by choosing. That's kind of how it was under Mark Richt, and they never chose us.
One would a year.
Yeah, one would a year. And he was supposed to come in and be the savior of the program as like the 5-star, but now they're just like, I mean, not a dime a dozen. They're very important. We need them, but it's not, we're not having these 5-star, like, what's the defensive lineman that's a
Nolan Smith?
Well, Nolan Smith, I think, is going to play a lot as a freshman, but Trayvon Walker.
Oh, okay.
We're not expecting Trayvon Walker to come in and just put the defense on his back as a freshman, which I think we would have 7 or 8 years ago.
I agree with that.
I mean, it used to be we signed one 5-star class, and they were expected to be like the face of that class, the face of the program immediately.
Yeah.
And we've kind of stacked talent to the point where we've got guys waiting in the wing, which is pretty exciting.
It's getting crowded in the locker room, which is fun. The numbers are going to be hard to figure out.
The numbers are tricky. We're going to have some guys probably be
getting blessed
with a new home and new
Kirby's going to show
academic endeavor.
Kirby's going to show you your new home for.
It may be Valdosta State. It may be West Georgia.
No matter where it is, it's out the door.
But you're going to be happy.
You'll always be a dog, and we wish you the best.
Yeah, thank you for your service.
Well, I think that's a good portion to end on in the national championship. I mean, we said it all, we saw it all. It was a dominating performance by Clemson, and certainly something to be kind of afraid of.
Through the whole playoffs. It's just whooping everybody,
Yeah. All I can say is I'm glad they're not in the SEC.
And I would like to have your brother on eventually to plead Notre Dame's case, because as hard of a time as we gave Notre Dame, they actually played Clemson 1 point closer than Bama.
It's true.
So is Notre Dame 1 point better than Bama?
You got to hang your hat on that.
Probably not.
I will say no.
That's not how football works. But I would die on that mountain if I was a Notre Dame fan. I'll tell you that.
Well, I'm a Notre Dame fan, and I won't die on that mountain. But what I will say is that it makes a much easier case for them to say, look, yeah, we didn't play well, but look what Clemson did in the rest of the field.
That team.
So who knows what's going to be coming down the pike with the playoff format. How these things are evaluated. It's always tough at the end of every season. If you're an outsider looking in and you're hearing Georgia's chirping, you say, well, you guys shouldn't have lost to LSU. Because I think if they didn't lose to LSU, there's no way that Notre Dame gets in over them, in my opinion.
I agree.
So, I mean, whether you like it, whether you don't, those are the narratives that fly around. Now we just have to find a way to occupy our off season, which is
going back watching film.
Yep,
I guess
getting ready for next year.
Exactly, but we'll have John on soon.
I want to tease a few things. I want to go over Notre Dame, some expanding the college football a little bit more. I think that will happen inevitably, but I think we'll have a lot of time to discuss that. And then Jimmy and I had some pretty good back and forth, which rarely happens, but just about the importance or lack thereof, maybe, of bowl games. So that'll be something just kind of in general, maybe not so much Bulldog specific or team specific, but more college football landscape, which John is obviously good at.
Yeah, and he follows recruiting around the country for other teams, which will be a good resource on. So definitely have him on here, in the off season, and he can, I guess, talk a little bit more about other sports that are going on.
I'm told that there are colleges playing basketball right now.
Yeah. What? Oh, I don't even care
Georgia
about that.
has a shooty hoops team.
I don't even care about basketball until the tournament, but I'm talking, when pitchers and catchers begin reporting for baseball.
Yeah,
David,
Braves
obviously, a huge resource on that.
I think our home opener this year is against the Cubs.
Yeah, and
we do play the Cubs at home very early in the season, if not the home
don't
opener.
know. It's so finicky with in we go. I mean, because those tickets are typically such in high demand when you look at obviously the very beginning of the season, and they have a huge draw.
We did go to a Cubs game on In We Go this year, though. It was in the middle of the season, but the series was on.
The Braves game,
Braves Cubs.
Yeah, it's a fun time. So we'll have to be on the lookout for that, and obviously the NHL is rocking and rolling right now. David's a great resource for that.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Watches that very frequently, so we'll be able to tie some of that stuff in. So.
Oh, producer Dave.
Producer Dave can't produce.
Asleep at the wheel.
I'll bring live video from at the end of February.
Oh, that's right. You're going to the Preds game.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. That'll be fun. So we probably won't record that week. Unless, are you going like
we need to find out when they play the Blackhawks.
It's a weekend.
Okay.
Yeah.
And fun side note, I actually got to see the Winter Classic.
Oh, yeah. How was that?
Did you go to that?
Yeah, I did go.
Oh, cool. I had a friend that was at Madeline, my Notre Dame friend.
Yeah.
Shout out
Remember
Madeline.
her.
She's a listener.
Hey, Madeline. Met you at Notre Dame game.
Thanks for having us.
It was
a blast. She was at that game too, though.
That's awesome. It was pretty incredible. It's not the best for viewing purposes. Like, if you're going to be honest, it's a hockey rink, which is much smaller, obviously, than a football field, put in the middle of Notre Dame Stadium. So we had pretty good seats. I mean, we were in what would have been the end zone facing the Jumbotron because there's only one in Notre Dame.
Right.
So that was nice because
We've been there. We've been there.
Yeah, right. So you guys know.
We travel.
So if there was a play like along the boards where you weren't going to be really able to see the puck, like you could just easily look up and watch that.
That's cool.
But it was cold.
I bet.
It was really freaking cold.
I bet.
But yeah, I mean, it was cool. It was against the Boston Bruins, so it was two original six
That's cool.
teams.
Yeah,
which
historic.
I think personally for me, nothing against any of the other teams or Nashville, but I would like to see them keep the Winter Classic just amongst the original six teams to kind of make it like a staple. But at any rate, it was a really cool event. Really fun. It was like one of the first times I think outside of the Garth Brooks concert that they hosted there.
I saw that.
I saw it on TV.
NBC or something.
They
Probably
sold
NBC.
beer,
It was Notre Dame. Oh, really?
so they were not equipped whatsoever to deal with that.
To deal with what? Sorry.
To sell beer in that stadium because they just don't have enough concession stands. They didn't have vendors like walking up.
It
and
was
down
a
the road.
frenzy, Tyler. You have no idea. The first time of everything.
It was awful,
They're going to lose their mind.
dude.
It's exciting, though.
I sat through.
At least they didn't need coolers. You just leave it outside.
Yeah, I guess that's true, but like they also made the mistake of offering like mixed drinks at these things. So it's like you're standing in line waiting for somebody being like, "I'll have a Moscow Mule." And it's like, dude,
10 minutes later.
yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, I literally missed. Okay, so I think the halftime show was Weezer.
Wait, there's no halftime.
It was.
There's no halftime in hockey. What do you call it?
Well, it was in between periods.
yeah, what do
yeah.
you call
Is
that?
it between
Is
the
it
first and the
halftime?
second or the second and the third?
It was the first and the second. Well, they had two bands, so they had
It's a quick concert.
so they had Weezer, and then they had
Are they on ice skates?
I saw a tweet the other day that said, "What if concerts had a real quick football game halfway through?" That was pretty funny.
I'd go to more.
Yeah, I'd go to more concerts if they just did a 20-minute. If Imagine Dragons played a football game in the middle of a concert.
Also, to answer your
That was a
question real
very
quick.
bad halftime show.
I
by
thought
the
they were
way.
actually. I agree with David. They were actually a pretty good.
I liked Lil
Imagine
Wayne.
Dragons. Imagine Dragons are actually pretty good live. I think they were that bad. I don't care what people say, but they're the modern day Nickelback, all that crap. They weren't that bad. I thought they were pretty good.
I told my parents, I said, I know you guys aren't into it, but they really are giving 100%. Like, this is what they sound like.
I didn't watch it.
I thought it was fine. It wasn't my favorite.
He
but I thought it was
sounded
fine.
close to what he sounds like in real life. I guess I'm not just a huge fan of their music. I
Nice.
feel like
Yeah.
there's not like the amount of people that are really into college football and the amount of people that want to see.
Nope.
I'm doing a Venn
is the Venn
diagram,
diagram.
and they're not touching because there's no overlap.
I feel like they would be safe getting like any classic rock band. Mm-hmm. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't. They also had. Have you guys ever heard of the
like
band
Wham or something.
Judah and the Lion?
Yeah, Judah on the Line is not nearly big enough to play the national.
No, I'm saying they played at the Winter Classic.
Oh, okay.
yeah.
And the
All right.
second intermission.
Okay,
I'd
that
never
makes
heard of
sense.
them.
Okay.
But they were
Really?
entertaining.
They used to play at the Georgia
Sounds
Theater
familiar.
when we were in
Really?
college.
They were pretty entertaining.
Yeah.
I was like, so when's Moon Taxi going to get out here?
Drop some Mountain.
My dad was cracking me up because I was like, yeah, it is them giving 100%. And he goes, yeah, I gave 100% trying to find the remote to turn it down.
You know that concert
Father
that was,
Grayson.
they were like 40 miles from the stadium.
Yeah, it was lame.
They were
Also,
like right next to the Golden Gate Bridge.
I was before Twitter when we were watching the game when Lil Wayne came out. I was like, he looks like the ghetto Hamburglar. And then Twitter ran with
Blew
it. I was
it
like,
up.
oh, I should have
Yeah.
made it
I could've
Twitter.
posted- I could've
gone
viral. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I had it.
Barstool stole it from
To
us.
answer your question real quick, Chicago Blackhawks play the Preds in Smashville on April 6th, which is Battle for a Cure weekend.
Oh, no, that is.
Well, I'm not going to battle
Brawl
for a
Cause.
cure.
Brawl for a Cause,
Or
I mean.
Brawl for a
Yeah.
Cause.
Well, maybe we need to go to Nashville instead.
Yeah,
April 6th.
Because that's
We'll get
8
Eric.
p.m.
Eric will be up for
Saturday.
probably
that.
be cheaper to go to Nashville.
Yeah, we'll get our degenerate gambler friend Eric
That would be a fun trip.
and make a trip up there. I still have never been to Smashville.
You've never been to Nashville?
never been
What?
to Smashville.
Oh, Nashville's a blast.
It is
So
fun.
that'll be a really easy excuse to go.
Bring your karaoke
Okay, cool.
pants.
Well, we've been trying to end this podcast for about 12 minutes.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening still, guys.
Yeah. Well, if you're still here, we want to
Nobody's
say
still listening except my parents and Brent.
we want to say thank you to all three of our listeners. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. You can find us on iTunes, YouTube, and Spotify. But from all of us here to all of you out there, have a great night and go Dogs.
Go Dogs.
And any sponsors that want to give us some new equipment because apparently it's going out.
Yeah, seriously, we need a new wire. So if you work for the wire company, tweet at us.
Go Dogs.